Hello and welcome to the Business Startup Show, brought to you by Inc. Authority. I'm your host, Trevor Rowley. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the question of incorporating, what advantages there are to incorporating, what disadvantages there might be. We know that many business owners have a lot of questions on their mind as they start their businesses. And to answer some of those questions, we've brought in a very special guest today. Please welcome Jeff Edwards, Senior Business Advisor at Inc. Authority. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Trevor. Thank you for having me on today.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So as a Senior Business Advisor, what is it that you bring to entrepreneurs and new business owners?
Well, we help them get started. If they're already going with the business, we help them take it to the next level. We're here for all the way through the process from day one all the way through day 99. We want to make sure that our clients know they can rely upon us for all their business needs, whether that be incorporating or creating some new opportunities for future growth.
So, Jeff, what are some of the things that are on a new business owner's mind as they launch their new enterprise? What are the things they worry about or that they're concerned about?
Well, Trevor, it's all across the board, really. It depends on how long they've been in the business, but most of the time are they doing things right? Am I making the right steps? Am I spending my money correctly? Am I investing, correctly with what I'm doing? And really what it boils down to is when people call us, they know they have that next level of trust and that expertise to help them guide them along the right path.
Can you give me some examples of some of the services that you can bring to bear for a new business owner that's going to help them to achieve their dreams?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, it boils down to industry specifics. A lot of our e-commerce based businesses need help with their marketing, really need help with the exposure of their products and optimization. We have a lot of truck drivers and service industry type people out there that can take advantage of corporate credit and things to help leverage their business that way. Really, the sky's the limit on what we can offer them through Inc. Authority. We're here to provide solutions to their problems.
Awesome. But of course, we can't put the cart before the horse, right?
Right.
And none of those things really become available until the person has taken the first step, which is to answer the question of whether they should incorporate their business. And we know that there's some advantages to it, there's some disadvantages to it. Often I know, as I've spoken to business owners around the country, they tell me that they're just comfortable establishing a DBA and getting their business license and letting it roll. So what would you tell somebody who thinks that the best way to start their business is as an unincorporated entity, just basically operating as a sole proprietorship, getting a DBA?
Well, one of the things that we like to do here at Inc. Authority is support our clients' decisions. Ultimately, if they come to us and this is what they're dead set on, I'm never going to tell them they're doing the wrong thing. But I'm also going to provide them with the answers on how it could be more beneficial to have an LLC or a corporation. And I think a lot of times is the reason that most people don't is just misinformation out there. I think once they understand the benefits and understand why it's important to have a corporate structure, I think most people would decide to go with the latter.
Yeah, and so when you operate as a sole proprietor, I think a lot of business owners don't understand the liability that they have. Can you explain that? What is it that they're exposed to as a sole proprietor?
Yeah, absolutely. It just goes with the anagram of the DBA. It's doing business as yourself. And if something happens, you're fully liable. If the business is sued, your house, your car, your bank accounts are all seen as the business's assets. So, and taxes too, you could be getting hurt tremendously in taxes without even knowing it. So the benefits within having a corporation or LLC are such that if you're making too much money or your business is at high liability, this is a great next step for you to be able to have that security and that ability to get a better return upon investment when running your business.
Yeah, so it sounds like there are some potential pitfalls that if somebody hasn't been through this process before they could fall into. But there are answers, fortunately, for these individuals, and setting up a corporation or an LLC can certainly be part of that answer.
Absolutely.
So tell me, let's talk about corporations for a minute. We'll talk about LLCs in a minute, but what is it about a corporation that limits the liability of that business owner and gives them more confidence moving forward with their business?
Yeah, really it boils down to the limited liability or what's called corporate veil, right? That's the separation between the business owners and the company. So if something happens, somebody, let's say you're a real estate agent or an investor and you have a couple rental properties and somebody slips, trips and falls on property A. Well, if you're a sole proprietor, you don't have any separation between your insurance and what's going to happen afterwards. With having the corporation or the LLC, it provides that next level of protection past what the insurance doesn't cover, because we all know insurance loves to fight our claims. So having that next level of protection really gives our clients that peace of mind to know that their personal life is seen as separate.
Yeah, so it sounds like the protection of a corporation is that barrier, you call it the corporate veil, that separates the individual's assets and liabilities from the business's assets and liabilities. and as a result, limits their liability.
Yes.
And so you can operate your business much more confidently knowing that you're not fully exposed to all of the risks and liabilities of the business. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
So what about LLCs? I mean, we hear a lot about LLCs. Is an LLC a corporation?
It can be taxed as such. It can be structured kind of similarly, but the major difference is how you really want to have it structured. The bigger difference is are you going to want to go public? Are you going to want to be able to sell shares and things of that nature? LLCs are manager-member managed. So when it comes to a corporation, the biggest differential is you're going to have officers, you're going to have CEOs, you're going to have presidents and secretaries. So there's a little bit different of a structure. Both of them primarily provide the same level of separation and protection as long as you're doing everything properly. But it really just boils down to how you want to have your business played out throughout the future.
Awesome. So, as I understand it, corporations, they certainly provide a benefit to individuals much more than a sole proprietorship. And it provides that corporate veil protection that you talk about, because the law that creates LLCs creates that that creates corporations rather, it creates that legal separation between the individual and the person. And I also understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but limited liability companies kind of are a hybrid between corporations and limited partnerships.
Yes.
And the corporation has so many formalities you mentioned, the officers and the directors and the requirement to hold meetings and document everything. All of that is part of corporate law. And then limited partnership law brings in a whole separate set of requirements. And some of those are actually better in many people's view, because you have flexibility in how you operate, ease of use, options in terms of how you want to be taxed, and options in terms of whether you want to have officers, etc. You could simply operate with members or managers if you wanted to. Is that correct? Is that how you see LLCs?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just a more simplistic way to run your business. It keeps things a lot less complicated. With corporations, you're mandated for certain things like quarterly tax filings and quarterly minute recordings and all these other things that really most of our clients, they're looking to create a business so that way they're more protected. They don't want all these other formalities and all these other things. So, most of the time, if our clients are unfamiliar or unsure of which route they want to go, typically we always recommend the LLC just because it's going to be easier for them to operate. We're always going to ask some of the questions like, hey, are you going to want to go public and things of that nature. But most of the time, 95% of our clients like to go LLC just because they understand the benefits and they understand that it's a lot more simple for them to run without having to get into all the key details.
Yeah. Certainly a corporation is very traditional, right? And people are familiar with the terminology and officers and directors and shares, and some people like to have that tradition, but other people, they want that flexibility that comes to them and the ease of use and the fewer formalities required of them through the LLC. I imagine with the number of customers that you have talked to over the years, the number of business owners that you've helped, that you have really seen kind of a flip from the number that used to choose corporations to the number that now choose LLCs. Are LLCs really the business formation type of choice?
Really, it boils down, it's client to client specific. And that's why here at Inc. Authority, we ask so many questions prior to making a decision with our clients. We want to make sure that we understand all the key details to make an educated decision on what they really need. But to answer that question directly, Trevor, yes, I would say that LLCs are most definitely the hybrid that's most popular that most companies go with nowadays. And the reason is just the simplicity of it. Our clients don't want any more stress than it is running a business. So.
Yeah. So if we have a new business owner, and business owners, they've got a lot of things on their mind as they get started, right? I'm sure they're worried about a lot of things. They're worried about taxes, and they're worried about liability, and they're worried about being able to market their product or their service, and they're worried about their finances and their funding. There's so many things that are on their mind. I'm sure the last thing that they want to worry about is this corporate veil protection, yet it's one of the most critical things that they can actually do to start their business. What do you say to somebody that calls in, talks to you, they're starting a new business, they have a brand new idea, and they don't even know what they don't know?
Right. How
How do you help guide them down the path to making that best decision for them?
Yeah. My approach to with our clients is be relatable. If it's business is something they know really well, I can get into the particulars. But typically, if it's somebody that doesn't understand business from Adam, we want to make sure that we explain it to them to where it's understandable. So what I typically do is relate it to something like every day. Like if they have a car, if you go to purchase a car, I'm going to give you the keys and gas, and the next thing you're going to do to finish it is you're going to go get it titled, registered, and insured, because that's the proper thing to do. unfortunately, misinformation's out there. Everybody says, just go to the state, get your articles and get your EIN, get your bank account and get to work. That's about as good as advice as me telling you not to get titled, registered, and insured. So what we try to do is just try to make it as simple as possible. We don't want to overwhelm our clients with something as stressful as setting up a business. So we want to just create that easiness of being able to explain it to them with relatable sources.
Yes, you want to make it easy for the customer, ask the right questions, and help them think through the process. But once they make that decision to form a corporation or an LLC, because they understand the risks associated with being a sole proprietor, it really establishes the foundation for them, doesn't it? For the success, the future success of their business.
It really does.
Because once they have that corporation or LLC set up, now they're in a position to be eligible to build business credit separate and apart from their own personal credit and so forth. How powerful is that?
Super powerful, Trevor. I mean, reality is when I explain it in reference to their personal life, I always ask them, what would it be like if you didn't have a 550 credit score and you had an 850 credit score? What would the difference in your personal life be? Instead of collections calling you, you got credit cards calling you, offering you 30, 40 grand every other week. Reality is it's the same effect in your business. If you have a brand new company that looks like it got set up yesterday, you're going to have a really tough time finding funding or additional credit. What we do here at IG Authority is we have a fast track system to get you to an A+ rating and very quickly to open up lines of capital that aren't tied to yourself to limit your liability even further. Because we want to make sure that the business stays business and personal stays personal from day one. So we create these opportunities and this knowledge base for our clients so they know they can come back to us to solidify on those specific needs.
So it's really a fundamental.
Yeah.
Get your corporation, get your LLC. If you need help deciding between the two, talk to a professional who can help them, a professional like you, who can help them make that educated decision as to whether they should get a corporation or LLC, and that lays the foundation for where they can go from there.
Yes.
But let me ask you this next question then that kind of ties into that, which is, well, where should they set up the corporation or the LLC? I mean, there's 50 states, and you hear about some states that are better than other states, that have better laws than others. But my understanding is, most of the time they're setting up their corporation or LLC in the state where they live. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's, 90% of the time, that's what we always recommend. And if somebody ever comes to us with, other reasons why they want to set up outside of state, I always ask them why. Most of the time it's because their accountant or, maybe somebody had told them it's better tax benefits to set up in Delaware or Wyoming or what have you. But when it comes to it, most of the time, it's not really applicable to be more beneficial to be set up out of state. So we always recommend their home state. But if they ever do want to, we always want to make sure that the reason is valid, because we don't just want to set them up outside of state if their buddy told them to, because that's what they did. We want to make sure that we get to the bottom of what's really going to be beneficial for them. And 9 times out of 10, it's always their home state.
Yeah, so there's no cookie cutter solutions. You want to make sure you're doing the right thing by the customer.
Yes.
And you're taking a look at where they're conducting legal business activity and helping them be registered properly in whatever jurisdiction that is. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. And that's really what it boils down to. And that's why we ask so many pertinent questions. Sometimes our clients feel like we're grilling them a little bit, but it's really just to make the best educated decision for them.
Yeah. I know as I talk to people who are starting up a new business, they often are concerned about the speed in which they can get everything established, and they want to hang their shingle and open their doors for business. And there is a process, right, to incorporating your business. You've got to file your articles of incorporation or your articles of organization. You've got to get your EIN number, get your bank account open. And I know that there's different times in different states in terms of the turnaround of getting these documents filed. What do you tell somebody when they say, hey, how fast can I get this done?
Well, it really depends on the state, like you mentioned. That's a huge factor because we have some states that can get it done overnight. We have some states that can't get it done earlier than a month. So one of the big things is we always find out, well, first and foremost, what's the need for the expedite? Are you trying to get funding? Or are you needing to close on a property? And there's some other ways around it where we can provide them some insight if the time frame's too long. But we have some different expedite options, but we always provide the client with the right amount of time so they can have a great expectation on when that's going to arrive at their doorstep. But reality is the time frames, they always fluctuate depending on the time of the year with the Secretary of State. Some states always seem to be falling behind, but what we always try to do is provide the right information so the client has the right expectation.
Yeah, so the state itself determines the turnaround time.
Yeah, I wish it was up to us because we'd be getting it done a lot quicker most of the time, Trevor.
But if I'm hearing you right, most states have an expedite option,
yes.
And you can guide the customer and help them. If they need to get it done faster, you can take a look and see if the state that they're needing to incorporate in is one of those that can do it on an expedited basis.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you, Jeff, for joining us today. You've provided us with a lot of great information, and I think, for me, I've learned a lot of new things today too, and I've been reminded of other things that I knew, but I haven't thought about in a while. Just this idea, the concept of incorporating, and how important it is for a new business owner
Yes.
to separate his personal and his business assets and liabilities, to keep those things apart from each other. That's a powerful tool in and of itself. But as you explained, how that sets the foundation that'll allow them to do other things that'll help them grow and scale the business as they progress. And ultimately, business owners, they have dreams and ambitions, and they want to be able to reach those. And so thanks for helping entrepreneurs around the country get started every day. How long have you been doing this, Jeff?
Almost my 5th year.
Five years as consulting with business owners around the country, helping them achieve their business dreams. We want to thank you for doing that. And we want to thank all of you for joining us today here on the program. Hopefully you've enjoyed the content. If you did, please push the subscribe button so that you get notifications for all of our additional programs that we'll be bringing to you. We look forward to bringing other topics to your attention that will help you in your quest to achieve your business dreams. Once again, I'm Trevor Rowley, your host. This has been The Startup Show, brought to you by Inc. Authority.